Right, some of you may have recently seen some videos with regards to the Big Bang Theory being debunked. Now, this is because the James Webb Space Telescope has photographed some galaxies, small galaxies, let's say roughly 3 to 500 million years after the Big Bang, or the established and known date for the Big Bang, which, according to astrophysicists and astronomers, is about 13.8 billion years ago. Now, before we go any further into this video, I'd like to make this disclaimer. I am not an astrophysicist. I am not a quantum mechanic, or I do not know much about quantum mechanics. I am not an astronomer. I am not a mathematician. I am just an enthusiastic beginner. And I'm very interested in outer space, the planets, the workings of the universe. I have been since I was a child. Now, when I was a child, I used to always pester my teachers to know more about galaxies and quasars and pulsars. And they used to always say to me, well, look, I've told you what I know. Now, if you're really interested in this, go to the library and read books on it. And I went to my local library and I exhausted all the books I could find there. So then I went to another local library and another, and so on and so on and so on. And I filled my head with notions of what it would be like floating in outer space, going to the planets, and so on. Now, as the years have gone on, new things have come to my knowledge, like magnetars and so on, the nature of white dwarf stars and so on, how supernovas happen, how hypernovas happen, and so on. The term AGN, which is short acronym for active galactic nuclei, which just means, or what I am led to believe, have been led to believe, is the period of time when the supermassive black hole at the center of a lot of spiral galaxies goes into active feeding mode, where it's actively drawing in matter. Now, to get back to what I was talking about, the James Webb Space Telescope, about 3 to 500 million years after the Big Bang, took some photos or video, I don't know what it was, but it's been very widely reported that what scientists expected to find were small galaxies that, for want of a better term, should look like they'd been involved in a massive train wreck, because it was the beginning of the universe, and because matter was so densely packed into a small space, galaxies would be constantly bumping into each other, so they should all, or most of them, should mostly look like train wrecks. But instead, what do they find? They find spiral galaxies that are well formed, their shape is well defined, and they weren't just the odd one or two here and there. There was an absolute shed load of them. But here's the kicker. Some of them were 1 billion years old or more. That would make them older than the universe. Now, let that sink in for a while. What does that mean? What can it mean? Does it mean that they were there before the beginning of the universe? From before the Big Bang? Well, when the Big Bang happened, the bang part of the Big Bang banged everywhere. It didn't just bang in one spot, if you like. It banged, and it banged in all directions. So matter came screaming out. Shouldn't it have destroyed or really damaged everything that was already there, if there was stuff there? But they don't find things destroyed, as I've already stated. So, does that mean the Big Bang Theory is now debunked? Or does it just mean our theories need a bit of adjustment? That's what you do. You form a hypothesis, you prove your hypothesis with evidence that you collect and data which you collect and then extrapolate and then form a theory, see what fits and what doesn't according to the evidence. You discard what doesn't and you keep what does. So, our universe is looking to be older than the established date of 13.8 billion years. Now, here's another thing that I've been wrestling with. If after the Big Bang, when all matter in all of creation was condensed down or squeezed down into an infinitely dense and infinitely small point, smaller than a pinprick or a pinpoint, not a pinhead, a pinpoint. So that's everything in creation, not in the biblical sense, but in the scientific sense, or in the biblical sense, if you like. So that's everything that you see, everything on the planet, all the planets, the sun, the solar system, all the stars, the galaxy, and all the other galaxies came from that one single point. Now, it's hard to wrap your head around it. And they say the laws of physics break down. You know, scientists have been wrestling with this, trying to get us to understand. And we've had many theories of the beginning of the universe. Like we've had scientists and astronomers and astrophysicists tell us that there was the oscillating universe theory. The one that says crunch, bang, crunch, bang, crunch, bang. So it oscillates between the two. It expands, then contracts, expands, then contracts. So it bangs, then squeezes, bang, squeeze, bang, squeeze, bang, squeeze, bang, squeeze. Maybe. And then we have the one that says the universe has just always been there. It's infinitely old, and it will get infinitely older. There's no beginning, there is no end. Now, when you turn your tap on in your... I'm just giving you an analogy here, sorry, I should have said that first. When you turn your tap on and then pull out the plug, I know this might not be a good analogy, but does that water... Forget that water can't be compressed. It can be put under pressure, but can't be squeezed. Also, they tell us. Is that water getting squeezed down into an infinitely dense point? Let's call now the plug hole the event horizon. The point of no return. When it goes past that. Yeah? Now let's imagine the water to be light. And it can't escape that. When it gets to that point, just because we don't see it, or we don't know what's going on down there behind it. Maybe it's just a closed door. That's why we can't see into it. So if it's a door, that means it's got another side to it. So couldn't it be, I'm not saying it is, but couldn't it be that on the other side of a black hole, we have a white hole? So everything gets constricted and squeezed down into that infinitely dense small point, but it can't all just gather there and get more stuff squeezing up. There just wouldn't be the space to put it all there. Perhaps it's getting squeezed and pushed into such a high pressure point that on the other side it's a big bang. So all white holes, for all intents and purposes, in my mind, are white holes. So when our universe began, it was a white hole opening or letting the matter through. Matter, antimatter, whatever you like. So, dark matter, dark energy, all of that stuff. is neatly explained by black hole one side, white hole on the other side, yin and yang. Yeah? Starting to make sense now? Well, it makes sense in my mind, and as I've said, I know a lot of people will say, what is this guy talking about? You know, he can't come here and teach us how to suck eggs. But through intuition, reading stuff, and through my own, albeit limited understanding, this is what I think. Perhaps it might make sense to some of you. Perhaps it's already been suggested by others. So, the universe is older than what they were led to believe. Every scientist, astrophysicist, exoplanet hunter, they're all shocked. We've even got videos of people on public platforms saying the Big Bang Theory has been debunked, whatever. Might not just be debunked, it just might mean it's a little bit older than we thought. As new technologies come online, as we develop our limited understanding, and we get a bit more understanding, our hypotheses, our theories need to be adjusted accordingly. So perhaps it's 1 billion years older. Perhaps it's 2 billion years older than we thought. Maybe it's twice the age of what we thought. I'm not saying it is. But all it means is that we still don't understand everything. And we still have to adjust our thinking as new technologies come online, as we get more data. We still need to extrapolate that data and then form new theories. Now, just because I'm not a scientist or astrophysicist, does that make my opinion or view any less valid than anybody else's? Now, I know opinions are like buttholes. Everybody's got one, and some people's stink. Perhaps mine does too. Talking about my theory here now. Or maybe it makes sense to some of you. You might have your own theory or hypothesis which is better, and you have a better understanding of everything than I do. But I think that if the universe is older, then the inflation period at the beginning of the universe, wouldn't that mean then space expanding faster than the speed of light no longer applies? Because scientists have always stated, well, we don't understand that bit, the inflation period, space expanded faster than the speed of light. But I thought the speed of light was inviolate. But then they tell us that, well, because it's not something traveling through space, it's space itself that is doing the traveling, so it's not violating any laws. I think that's a cop-out. That's just another way of saying, look, we don't really know what the hell happened, why this is so. Yeah, which is not a bad thing to say. That's how we get understanding, by saying, I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. So, if the universe is older, perhaps that might mean, notice I say perhaps and maybe, I'm not stating this as the gospel truth, but perhaps space didn't violate the laws of physics by travelling faster than the speed of light. If it's older, just means it took a bit longer. And it didn't have to go faster than the speed of light. So if we could be, or they could be, wrong about that, or incorrect about that, not in its totality, but partially. So, we found out what fits, and what doesn't fit now, we can discard that, or keep it to one side, to be improved upon at a later date. So, just a bit of food for thought for everybody. I don't think the theory of the universe has been debunked, or the Big Bang. You know, people since time immemorial have looked up at the sky and the stars and have wondered what's going on. And in that sense, I'm no different from a human 25,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago. I mean, as we know, civilization is older than what mainstream science has told us, that it's only 6,000 years old. Before that, we were all hunter-gatherers. Well, how the hell do you explain M.A.D and Göbekli Tepe? I'm not saying aliens came and taught us how to do that stuff, because these were intelligent human beings then, just the same as we are now. Maybe they could have had a better understanding of certain things. I'm not saying they had flying cars or anti-gravity, anything like that. But these were human beings with the brains the same size as ours. You know? But anyway, getting onto a different subject here. We need to adjust our theories accordingly. The universe is older than we thought, because, as the James Webb Space Telescope has shown us, we've got 1 billion year old galaxies where there shouldn't be galaxies that old. Now, the reason why scientists thought it was 13.8 billion years is because Hubble looked back that far. And that's as far back as it could look. That just meant that's as far back as it could see. It didn't mean that's how old the universe is, or that's when it started, as we've recently just found out. So when the next new technology, new telescope comes along, maybe we'll get even more evidence, even better understanding of what's happened, what's gone on, and our theories will have to be adjusted accordingly. So, I believe the Big Bang, perfect analogy for a white hole, or perfect way to describe the Big Bang, which could be, in my book, the other side of a black hole. This would neatly explain the event horizon and the singularity, where all laws of physics break down. If it's not getting crushed into a point and it's streaming out the other side, then your laws of physics still apply. Maybe all that the theory needed was a liberal sprinkling of common sense, you know, and not exotic hypotheses. Or maybe it does. I might be totally wrong and I might be chatting absolute twaddle. But I hope it makes sense to at least somebody out there. Tell me what you think.